Greetings. It is a joy to be with you in this virtual space. Our church community welcomes you whether you are a new or a longtime member. We especially want to welcome those of you who are here for the first time. If you would like to learn more about our community and its online offerings, please go to nsuc.org and sign up for our newsletter. There has never been a better time to get involved or to become a member of the North Shore Unitarian Church. We would love to get you connected. Let us now begin our worship with music.
Welcome to this blessed day. Let us open our worship this morning with the words of the Reverend Amy Mackenzie Quinn. Welcome to this common, sacred space. Common because we are all welcome. Sacred because here we transform the ordinary and attend to the profound. We carry with us our regrets, doubts, fears, stories, laughter. May they inspire our worship. Above all, may we each meet what we need most to find on this day in this common, sacred space.
My spiritual companions, welcome. This flame affirms the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment.
Today's Time for All Ages is called The Mustard Seed. This is a story that comes from Buddhism. For my younger friends who may not have heard of Buddhism or Buddha, this is a major world religion that was founded by Siddhartha Buddha, who's now known as the Buddha. He was a prince who lived in the 4th or 5th century in what is now Nepal or India. You should go ahead and look those up when we're done with our story. He was wealthy, he was pampered, and his dad protected him from the suffering and the pain of the world. In fact, it wasn't until he was 29 years old, that's pretty old, that he saw the suffering that existed. And that inspired him to go on a journey that would help him understand the role of suffering in life and how dealing with suffering can lead to something called enlightenment. So this is the story of the mustard seed from Buddhism. Have you ever been sad? I mean, really sad. Today's story starts with a mother who was very sad. She was sad because her child was so sick. She had bathed her, given her medicine, and she did everything to help her daughter get better. Finally, in desperation, she did one last thing. She had heard the Buddha teach many times. His stories and teachings were so wise. The Buddha was the wisest, smartest person she could imagine. This mother, like many other people, believed that the Buddha could do anything, even make sick people well. She told the Buddha how sick her child was and how she had tried everything she knew to help her get better. She said, "You are the wisest person on earth. I know that if anyone could help my child, it would be you." But the Buddha saw that the child wasn't sick. She was dead. The Buddha knew that there was nothing he could do for the child, but he thought that perhaps there was something he could do for the woman. He told her he could make a special medicine for the child, but that to make this medicine, he would need the woman to find him a rare ingredient. He would need her to bring him a mustard seed. But that wasn't all. This mustard seed had to come from the house in which none who lived there had ever experienced pain or loss. He told her, "Go door to door and bring me a mustard seed from each house free of sadness, loss, and death." So she went to each house in town, and at each house she would say, "My child is dying, but the Buddha said he could help my child if I could find a seed from a home in which no one has ever been sad or known death or been lonely or experienced loss." Have you ever been sad? And she noticed that at every house she traveled to, the people who lived there would always say, "I'm very sorry. I have experienced sadness. We have known loss. We have been lonely at times, and we have experienced pain." And the mother said, "So I suppose that you don't have a seed that would help the Buddha make a special medicine?" And they all shook their head no. She also saw that some of them cried with her as she shared her story and told her about their own losses and how they had lost family members and had been lonely at times. When the mother had visited every house in the village, she returned to the Buddha. The Buddha asked the woman what she had learned. She explained that she learned that there was no house in the entire village in which no one there had not at some time been sad or experienced loss or been in pain. She said that she learned that there was nothing the Buddha could do to help her child. She said she also learned that she wasn't alone. That as sad as she was, she now knew that others had cried tears of loss with her and before her. I'd like to invite all the parents who might be watching today to see the link in the video description for some questions that will help you and your child wonder together about the story of the mustard seed. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful week, my friends.
North Shore Unitarian Church is a community that is grounded in love, guided by reason, committed to spiritual growth, and striving for justice. We accomplish this mission through the generous donations of our members and friends. And so I invite you to text your donation now. Please note that in order to give, you must include NSUC and the amount. Beloved companions, breathe deep the breath of life. Set aside the cares of the world, if only for this moment. As we play some music, I invite you to close your eyes, get comfortable in your seat, put aside the making of plans, stop the worry and the doing, and be still.
Our reading for today is Eden's Magic by William Cleary. Among the deeper mysteries of life is the mystery of manure. How awful it smells, how disgusting it looks, and how repulsive it feels. Yet how delicious it is to our vegetable cousins in the garden. The tomatoes, the corn, the carrots. We put manure right into their bed. They not only welcome it, but they take it in, and through the life powers within them, absorb its very substance into their individual beings, transforming its smelly and disgusting substance miraculously into bright, shining red tomatoes, yellow, luscious corn, sweet, wholesome carrots. Miraculously, that execrable manure has now turned into something humans can eat. Nourishing, sweet-smelling food, delicious to the mouth and life-giving to every part of our bodies. A magic we might expect to find only in mythical, Eden.
Frederick Buechner is a minister and prolific author. He wrote this particular fragment reflecting on his calling to the ministry, and it is a fragment of writing that I find stunning. I'd like to offer it this morning. "I hear you are entering the ministry," the woman said down the long table, meaning no real harm. "Was that your idea, or were you poorly advised?" And the answer that she could not have heard even if I had given it was that it was not an idea at all, neither my own nor anyone else's. It was a lump in the throat. It was an itching in the feet. It was a stirring in the blood at the sound of rain. It was a sickening in the heart at the sight of misery. It was a clamoring of ghosts. It was a name which, when I wrote it out in a dream, I knew was a name worth dying for, even if I was not brave enough to do the dying myself and could not even name that name for sure. Come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you a high and driving peace. So ends the fragment. And I think that is a stunning fragment. I think what it is talking about is something very subtle. It is discussing the alchemy of what happens when we set our hearts on what we know we must do. In this instance, it is a calling to ministry. What one person sees as mistaken, as a bad idea, and what could in a very real way be challenging and difficult, may actually have inside of it a deep worth, a blossoming that will one day hold something true and valuable. It's a truth, I think, that doesn't need to be about the calling to ministry only. Many of us have followed paths that at some point other people in our lives could not fathom. And yet we know that those choices were the right ones, choices that could not have been otherwise. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Buddhist monk in the Zen tradition and is a spiritual teacher that I have mentioned before. He coined the term engaged Buddhism, which he describes as using the techniques of the Buddha to bring about a more peaceful and just world. He has written dozens of books on this subject. In one of his more recent ones, No Mud, No Lotus, he offers a reflection on the flowers that grow in the ponds all around his monastery. The most beautiful, delicate flowers, the lotuses, can only grow in marsh-like places. The debris from the other plants and animals rot in basically stagnant waters. The environment where these flowers grow is not a pretty one. It is a stinking mess. And yet, as Hahn points out, the lotus cannot grow out of marble. Without the mud, there is no lotus. This week, we passed February 2nd, which marks an ancient holiday. It is called Imbolc and was celebrated in Europe as the first of 3 spring festivals. There, the earth was still frozen, the skies still dark most of the time, the weather still unforgiving. And yet, what these ancient ancestors recognized is that the very first signs of spring, its earliest edge, were beginning to break through. Perhaps the days were getting just a little bit brighter. Perhaps it was time to tend to certain seeds. Or perhaps it was simply a time to know that even with the driving snows and the cold winds, some seeds were beginning to stir inside the ground. The ancient holiday suggests that what is frozen and dark contains the seeds of a warmer time. Indeed, what is beautiful comes up from the blank and the bland, the harsh and the ugly. As many of you know, I am a person with a disability. I've never been able to be in the sun for more than several minutes without getting an excruciating, indescribably painful sunburn. This was something that I did not choose, and if given a choice, I might still choose otherwise. In many ways, it has been a curse, and I have wanted it to be gone. Things that other people find simple and obvious have not been so for me. This was particularly true when I was younger. Outdoor sports and trips to the beach, participating in recess and going to summer camp, all things that were simple and plain to other youth, were impossible for me. One of my friends once noticed something about it that I had not. She said that I look at the outdoors very differently than other people do. I asked her what she meant by that, and she said, well, if I'm taking a walk with my friend, I think about and calculate the whole length of that walk in terms of how much shade there is. It sometimes led me and my friend to take complicated routes that she would not have thought of. So it has been a challenge, and it has presented obstacles. But, and this is how I am thinking about it today, in light of this sermon, I have also come to appreciate the gifts that disability has offered me. Even at a young age, a quiet alchemy was working inside of me. Being indoors most days fostered my love for reading and for ideas. I began learning about other religions and studying theology because they were pastimes I could do indoors. I started practicing yoga because it was something that I could do inside. Those pastimes and spiritual practices have made me a deeper and richer person, and in no small way, they have contributed to who I am and how I think about the world. Today, I recognize that some of the most beautiful flowers in my life have come from some of the thickest mud. Sometimes we do not choose the mud, as in the case of my disability, but sometimes we do. Sometimes we take paths in our lives that remain obscure to others. Many of us feel a dedication to a particular social cause or issue. Some of us have worked tirelessly in that area, perhaps to the bewilderment of our family and friends. And that kind of justice work is not easy. Oftentimes there are few signposts that suggests we are making a difference in the world. Sometimes it can feel futile. We often do not do it. However, we often do it precisely out of a deep sense or calling, wading through the muck with little more than hope that we will see a change in the world. The famous theologian Reinhold Niebuhr penned this poem in order to get at that idea. Nothing that is worth doing can be achieved in our lifetime. Therefore, we must be saved by hope. Nothing which is true or beautiful or good makes any complete sense in any immediate context of history. Therefore, we must be saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we must be saved by love. So much of this piece resonates, but I'm particularly struck by its second line, nothing which is true or beautiful or good makes any sense in the immediate context of history. In other words, when we are wading through the muck, we cannot know that any kind of difference is being made. We just have to abide by the calling to follow the path, hoping it is the right one, having faith that the seeds are stirring and that we may be contributing to more justice in the world. I'd like to give the last words of my sermon today to Thich Nhat Hanh. He offers a story in his book, No Mud, No Lotus, from the Buddhist tradition. And it serves as something of a parable to what I'm talking about today. It's a story of the cousin of the Buddha whose name was Bhadaya. Now, Bhadaya was a governor of a province in the kingdom of Shakya, which is in present-day India. One day, a number of his friends who were monks and students of the Buddha came to him and invited Bhadaya to join their community. He hesitated. As governor, he had at his command many soldiers, a lot of wealth, and a very powerful position. But finally, his friends persuaded him. The night before he left, he wept for everything that he was leaving behind. But he left it all behind and came empty-handed into the forest where he was ordained by the Buddha as a monk. He didn't have a fancy house anymore. He only had 3 robes, 1 bowl, and a sitting mat. One night, Bhadaya was meditating at the foot of a tree, and suddenly he uttered, "Oh, my happiness, oh, my happiness." And it just happened that another monk was sitting nearby. The other monk thought that Bhadaya regretted having abandoned his position as governor, that he was saying, "Oh, my happiness," out of grief for all of the things that he had abandoned for his new calling as a monk. So in the early morning, that monk went to the Buddha and reported to him, "Dear teacher, late last night, while I was sitting in meditation, suddenly I heard Bhadaya exclaim, 'Oh, my happiness, oh, my happiness.' I think that he must be grieving." The Buddha sent for Bhadaya. In front of the group of monks, the Buddha said, "Bhadaya, is it true that last night during the sitting meditation you pronounced 2 times the sentence, 'Oh, my happiness'?" Bhadaya responded, "Yes, noble teacher, I did pronounce that sentence 2 times. Could you explain to us why you have pronounced these 3 words during the night?" the Buddha asked. And Bhadaya said, "Dear teacher, when I was governor, my palace was guarded by hundreds of soldiers, but I was still always afraid. I was afraid of robbers who would come and kill me or at the least take away all of my valuables. So day and night I lived in fear. But last night I realized that now I have nothing to lose and no reason to fear. I was sitting out in the forest at the foot of the tree, and never in my life have I felt so safe, so at peace. Nobody envies me, and I have nothing for anyone to steal. No wealth, no power, no jewels. I have nothing, and yet I finally have everything. I am touching happiness and freedom for the first time in my life. That is the reason I pronounce the words, 'Oh, my happiness, oh, my happiness.'" So ends the story. May we, as we go forth from this time together, find the happiness that comes from the unexpected, the beauty that comes from the hardship, the faith that comes from the calling, and the flowers that come out of the mud. Amen. May it be so. And I love you.
Words are flying out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither while they pass, they slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my open mind, possessing and caressing me. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. 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 Images of broken light which dance before me like a million eyes. They call me on and on across the universe. Thoughts meander like a restless wind inside a letterbox. They tumble blindly as they make their way across the universe. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. 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 Sounds of laughter, shades of earth are ringing through my open views, inciting and inviting me. Limitless, undying love which shines around me like a million suns. It calls me on and on across the universe. Jai Guru Deva Om. Nothing's gonna change my world. 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 Jai Guru Deva. 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 Jai Guru Deva.
If you found something of meaning here today, I invite you to share the link to our service with your family and friends. In a few moments, we will have coffee hour. You can find the link posted in the YouTube chat portion of this page and also in your newsletter. But first, by way of closing, some words from Nancy Wood. Hold on to what is good, even when that is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even when that is a tree that stands alone. Hold on to what you must do, even when that thing is a long, long way from here. Hold on to life and to hope and to possibility, even when it's easier letting those things go. And finally, hold on to each other's hands, even while we are apart from one another. Amen, and blessed be.